Can you hear me? Let's see if you can actually. अच्छा ठीक है बेहतरीन. What the heck? अच्छा. Am I actually going to start this? I shall leave it, please. I shall leave it. I'm going to do this alone. Actually, there are three people watching, so I need to be serious about this. Okay, so today we're going to be solving the O-level mathematics paper 1, May June 2025, 2024 actually. So let's start. So first we have question 1, which basically says that we need to write all the letters down that have a line of symmetry. Now line of symmetry is any line along which you can fold a certain thing and it will be equal on both sides. For example, if we have a shape like this, then we can fold it to this side line and this line, and they'll reflect right across those. So if we're talking about G does not have a line of symmetry, R does not have a line of symmetry. However, the letter A does have a line of symmetry. The letter A can be cut across like this, and it will be reflected on both sides. Furthermore, next we have letter N, which does not have a line of symmetry, but the letter T does have one if we cut it along its middle. See? So we have two letters that have a line of symmetry, A and T. The next question we have is which letter has rotational symmetry. Rotational symmetry is a we when you rotate around the shape around its pivot, and it goes back to its original position. So for the shape G, it only has a rotation symmetry of 1 because it only reaches its original position when it's rotated entirely 360 degrees. The same goes for shape R, A, and T. But with shape N, when you rotate it 180 degrees, it comes back to its original position, which is this N. So we have one letter that has rotational symmetry, which is N. So that's our solution for part question 1. Sorry for the hesitation, it's my first time live streaming. Anyhow, next we have question number 2. It says that at the start of the day, the mass of a bird is 4.628. So, the mass at the start is 4.628 kg. While later on, the mass later is 4.693 kg. Now they're saying we need to calculate the increase in the mass of the bird and give our answer in grams. So to make this easier, since they asked us to give it in grams, we can just multiply it by 1000 immediately and then subtract. So multiplying it by 1000 to get it in grams, so you get 4628 grams and 4693 grams. Now when we subtract these two values, 4693 minus 4628, then we get 65 grams. So the bird increased with a mass of 65 grams. That's question 2 for you. And next, let's go on to question 3. Okay, question 3 basically asks us to work out some decimals, right? So first we have 0.3 times 0.02. Now what to do in decimals is that I have a workaround for this to make it easier. We can rewrite 0.3 as 3 upon 10 and 0.02 as 2 upon 100. When we multiply this, it becomes 6 upon 1000. Now we can move 3 decimal places back because that's what 1000 means. So 1, 2, and 3. So our answer finally is 0.006. The next question we have is 15% of 40. So 15% of 40. The simplest way to calculate percentage is obviously to replace the percentage sign by upon 100, multiplied by 40, cancel out the zeros, 5 3s are 15 and 5 2s are 10. 2 1s are 2 and 2 2s are 4, and now through simple division we get 6. So 15% of 40 is 6. The next question we have is 7 minus 25. Now obviously when the minus sign multiplies with this minus sign, it becomes a plus sign, so it becomes 7 plus 25, and that is 32. That is question 3 for you. Next we have question number 4. Now question 4 is a geometrical related question. It has geometric construction linked in it. So we have 4a that ABC is a triangle where AC is equals to 5 centimeters and BC is equals to 10 centimeters. So they've asked us to use a ruler and a compass to construct triangle ABC. Now, they've already drawn AB for us. They've drawn a line called AB. If we're provided the lengths of the other sides, how can we draw this triangle? Well, the simplest way to do this is to open up your compass to the point where the length between the compas's ends is 5 centimeters. Let me show you what I mean if I can grab out my compass in time. This is not a compass, but I'll show you what I mean with it. So, using this compass, I can open it up a distance of 5 centimeters. Currently, I'm doing it by eye because I do not know how to do geometrical constructions on a whiteboard. But yes, if this was 5 centimeters and I wanted to make an arc for AC, what I would do is I would open it 5 centimeters and put one end on A and then make an arc that extends that could list all the possible points for C. And next, for making the other possible points of C, we get BC is 10 centimeters, so we open it 10 centimeters, we put one end on B, make another arc, and where those two arcs intersect will be our C point. So imagine if your AC arc comes over here and BC comes over here, then they both intersect over here, and that would be C. So you can just join them like so, and now you've created ABC using only a ruler and a compass. The next question, they asked us to measure BAC, so that is quite simple. We need to measure this angle, so we'll put our protractor over here and measure that angle as so. The next question we have is that they've given us a certain table of data for boys and girls. They've given us data for 28 students, and they basically said that distance of 1 kilometer or less and distance of more than 1 kilometer. Distance of more than 1 kilometer. They've given us that the total number of students is 28, so it's quite simple as to what the number of girls who have a distance of 1 kilometer or less would be. So 28 minus 11 plus 3 plus 6. So 28 minus 11 plus 3 plus 6 is basically 28 minus 14 and 20, and that is 8. So the number of girls who travel 1 kilometer or less is 8. The next question they ask is that a student is chosen from the class at random, and we have to write the probability that the student lives more than 1 kilometer from the school. Now they didn't mention girl or boy, so the probability of having a student that lives more than 1 kilometer from the school is the amount of students that live more than 1 kilometer from the school upon the total number of students, right? So students that live more than 1 kilometer are 3 boys and 6 girls, and when we add that becomes 9 in total. So we have 9 and we have total 28 students. So 9 upon 28 is the probability that the student lives more than 1 kilometer from the school. The next question, for question number 6, we have a simple algebraic question. Question 6a says that we have to simplify 6r plus 7s minus r plus 3s. So here 6r minus r, we can group like terms together first. 6r minus r plus 7s plus 3s. 6r minus r is 5r and 7s plus 3s is 10s. So we've gotten our simplification here. The next question they've given us is that bananas cost x cents each, while apples cost y cents each. They're asking us the total expression for the total cost of 7 bananas and 5 apples. Well, if this were replaced by any normal number, we would just multiply it by the number of bananas to find the cost. But in this case, we don't have the value for x and y. So what we do is we just multiply it because they asked for an expression. 7x would give us the total cost for bananas, while apples, we would get the total cost by 5y. And they're asking for the total cost of both of these fruits. So we basically added. So 7x plus 5y is the total cost for this. Let's move on to question number 7. This is the most chaotic live stream I've done in my entire life. Not to mention the first one. Yeah. Anyhow. Okay. We have two shapes that are joined. There is pentagon and a square. And they're asking us to find this angle. And they're both regular polygons. Okay, fine. This is a square, so we know that each of its angles is going to be 90 degrees. So this one is also going to be 90 degrees. Now what about the pentagon? What is each of the pentagon's angles equal to? It's a regular pentagon, so that must mean it's all of its angles are equal. So to find the angle of a pentagon, the interior angles of any polygon is given by n minus 2 multiplied by 180 divided by n, and where n is the number of sides that it has. In case of a pentagon, we have 5 sides, so 5 minus 2 multiplied by 180 upon 5. Now that gives us something around 540 upon 5, which is equal to, let me just, yeah, which is equal to 108. So we know that each angle in a pentagon is equal to 108. Now they're asking us to find x. Well, as you can see, this is an entire rotation, so that means that its total angles is equal to 360. So to find x, we basically do 360 minus 90 minus 108. 360 minus 90 would be 270, and 270 minus 108 would be equal to 162. So x is equal to 162 degrees. Aisha Siddiqui, are you the only person watching right now? I want to hear it. Okay, I'll continue. So now we have that Ahmed invests $4,000 at a rate of 1.5% per year per simple interest. Calculate the value of the investment after 2 years. So the principal that we have is $4,000, while our rate is 1.5. The time is 2 years. So according to the formula for simple interest, it's I is equal to PRT upon 100. Substitute the values in, we get 4,000 multiplied by 1.5 multiplied by 2 upon 100. So we cancel out these zeros. 2 times 1.5 is 3, and 3 times 40 is 120. So we have $120, but they're saying the value of the investment, right? So that includes the principal as well. So we need to find out the total amount. The amount is the principal plus the interest, so that's $4,120. The next question is, we have a distance time graph and we need to find out the average speed of a cyclist for a certain stage. You can see the graph on the screen recording, and we need to find the speed for the portion BC. Now the speed in any distance time graph is its slope, because slope is the change of y over x, right? Over x, and in a distance time graph we have distance on y and time on x. That means the distance over time is the slope, and that is speed. So now we need to find the average speed of the cyclist for the second stage, which is BC. So we need to find out the slope. So what we'll do is basically take 2 points of any, like the coordinates. So if we're assuming that 9 o'clock, we can take it as 0. Yaar, mujhe to lag raha hai oh my god, this is so bad. Anyhow, yeah. So we're gonna assume that 9 o'clock is the time that he started for the path BC, for example, and his distance at that sort of time is 21. Now let's move on to the next point in time, which is 9:30. So that's 30. Let's say that is 30. And the distance that we have covered in that time is 27. However, one thing that I forgot to mention here is that they want speed in kilometers per hour, and we're measuring it in minutes, right? We just wrote 30 minutes. That's not right, so we need to change it to 0.5 because that's half of an hour. Now, in order to find the slope, that's 27 minus 21 upon 0.5 minus 0. Now that would be 6 upon 0.5, and that is 12. So 12 kilometers per hour is the speed. Now it's saying a bus travels an average speed of 20 kilometers per hour. Its average speed is 20 kilometers per hour. We need to work out the time the bus takes to travel 50 kilometers. So the distance that we have is 50 kilometers, and we need to find the time. Well, the time, if you're given the distance and the speed, is distance upon time. So we have 50 upon 20. Now that is equal to 2.5, and 2.5 what? Well, obviously hours. That's part B. And the next thing we have is 10, question number 10. Question number 10 shows the fuel gauge of a car. The car has 40 liters of fuel in the tank at this point. So what we can do is basically express a fraction, and then we can make it basically find the number of portions that represent each portion and when it is full as well. I do not know how to explain this, but basically in order to make the number of fractions, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections, right? So if we have total 8 sections, and currently our gauge is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 out of 8 full, and that is equal to 40, and that basically indicates that 5 upon 8 of the total value is equal to 40. So in order to find x, basically we'll multiply it by 8 on both sides, so we get 5x is equals to 320, and x is equals to 6, 5 6 is 30, and then we have 64. So the total number of liters that the tank has when it is full is 64. The next thing we have is that the car uses 5.4 liters of fuel for every 100 kilometers traveled. Find the amount of fuel the car will use on a journey of 300 kilometers. Well, if it uses 5.4 on 100 kilometers, then on 300 kilometers it will use 3 times that number, because it's obviously directly related. So 5.4 multiplied by 3 would simply be 16.2. So it would use 16.2 liters on a journey of 300 kilometers. Okay, next we have Tom's pets eat 3.5 of a tin of food, and he needs each day. So basically per day, that's the amount of food that they eat, and we need food for 12 days. Calculate the number of tins that Tom needs to buy. So if it's 12 days and 3.5 are being eaten per day, so 3.5 multiplied by 12 would give us the number of tins that would be eaten in 12 days. So when we multiply it, we get 36 upon 5, which is equal to 7.2, I believe. So 7.2 tins would be required, but obviously that's not a feasible number, so the number of tins that he would need to buy would be 8 in order to supply 7.2 of them. So 8 tins would be the number that Tom needs to buy. The next question is another algebraic question. Let's do it. We have 4 multiplied by 2x minus 3, and we're adding 5 multiplying by x plus 5 is equal to 20. So we'll just multiply 4 by both numbers. Inside this bracket we get 8x minus 12, and now we multiply 5 by both numbers in this bracket, and we get 5x plus 25 is equal to 20. Now let's group like terms together. So 8x plus 5x, and let's move all the non-integer values to the right hand side. So we get 20, which was already there, minus 25 plus 12. So this is the sum that we get, and this is 13x. 20 minus 25 is minus 5, and 12 minus 5 is 7, I believe. Yeah, so that's our value, and x would be equal to 7 upon 13 by that account. The next thing we have is a sort of pie chart here. They've given that the angle for the pie chart for juniors is 60 degrees. That means that seniors will automatically be 300 degrees, subtracting it from 360. There are 120 more senior members than junior members. Calculate the total number of junior and senior members at the gym. So if there are 120 more senior members, then that means 300 upon 360 multiplied by a certain number, which is the total number, is the number of seniors that we have. Why? Because this basically uses a ratio of the pie chart that we're applying to the total number that we have, and that would be the proper ratio, right? So in order to simplify this, we basically get seniors is equals to, we cut the zeros, 3 10s are and 3 12s are, and this is 5 and 6. So 5x upon 6 is the number of seniors that we have. In the same way, the number of juniors that we would have by automatic means is x upon 6. And this is the number of juniors and this is the number of seniors, and we need to find, and they're telling us that 120 more senior members exist than junior members. So 5x upon 6 minus x upon 6 is equals to 120. So that's 4x upon 6. 4x upon 6 is equals to 120, which when we multiply is equals to 720. X is equals to 1, 3, 2, 4, 8 are 32, and 180. That means that there are 180 total members. So the total number of junior and senior members at the gym is 180. Okay, the next question we have is to solve these simultaneous equations. 2x plus 3y is equals to 7 and x minus 6y is equals to 6. Well, there was once a point in time where I loved to do elimination, but substitution, but now I'm going to do elimination. So when you multiply this entire equation by 2, we get 2x minus 12y is equals to 12. And let's write our first equation here too. 2x plus 3y is equals to 7. Subtract the first equation, second equation from the first equation, or whatever you want to call it. 2x minus 2x is nothing. Minus 12y, actually what is this? Yeah, minus 12y minus 3y is equal to minus 15y, and 12 minus 7 is equal to 5. So y is equal to 5 upon minus 15, which is minus 5 upon 15 minus 1 upon 3. So that's y for you. And now we need to find x as well. So x, we can substitute this into any equation like 2x plus 3y is equal to 7. So let's do that right now. Y is equal to minus 1 upon 3. 2x plus 3 times minus 1 upon 3 is equal to 7. 2x, 3 and 3 cancel out, so it becomes 2x minus 1 is equal to 7. 2x is equal to 8 and x is equal to 4. So now we know the values of both of these and we can move on. The next question is one that the CIE examiners love to give. They give it in almost every single paper, and they're asking you to write each number to one significant figure and then find out the value of a certain expression. So you can see this expression over here. So in order to evaluate this, first let's write 2.87 to one significant figure. Well, one significant figure would be 2, and then we round it off up because 8 is greater than 5, so it becomes 3. And then we multiply it by root of something. Well, 396.5, in 396.5 the first significant figure is 3, but then obviously we have 9 over here which is greater than 5, so it becomes 4, and the rest will be written with zeros. So root 400 upon 1.92, and 1.92 the first significant figure is 1, but 9 is obviously greater than 5, so it becomes 2. So 2 square, right? Now let's evaluate this. So 3 multiplied by root 400 becomes 20, and 2 square becomes 4. So this becomes 60 upon 4, and 60 upon 4 is 15. So now we've estimated the value of this expression. The next question we're given is one of circle theorems, and let's do it, right? Okay, in this question they're basically asking us to find the value of angle DAB. Now there are a few things that I can see in this question. The first thing that I see is that we have one of those properties where we can basically find out the angle of the center because it's double that of the circumference. So first but I do not think that's what they're asking right now. That's the second part actually. So in order to find angle DAB, the first thing that we see is that there is a cyclic quadrilateral in this circle, right? A cyclic quadrilateral is when all four edges of a quadrilateral that is inside a circle touch the circumference, and that basically means that the angle over here is 180 minus x basically. So what I mean is that when you add both angles at opposite ends, they become 180. So, and we are given one angle that is opposite to DAB. The angle that is opposite to DAB is BCD, and we're given that it is 58 degrees. If we know BCD, then DAB will automatically be 180 minus that angle, right? So 180 minus 58 would be equal to DAB. So this would be 130 minus 8, so 122 degrees. 122 degrees would be DAB, and we could explain it as because it's a cyclic quadrilateral, opposite angles would be equal to, the sum of opposite angles would be equal to 180, and BCD is 58, so we minus that by 180 and we get 122, and that's our explanation. The next question they're asking us to find DOC. Now for DOC, that was a property that I explained a while earlier. It was basically that when there is a certain figure in which there is an angle at the circumference and then there's an angle at the center and they're both subtended by the same arc, then that means that the angle at the center is double that of the circumference. So if this is x, then that would become 2x, right? So they've given us the angle at the circumference, and that's 72 degrees. In order to find the angle at the center, we basically just double this and it becomes 144 degrees. The next question they've asked us to find angle BCO. Now in order to find angle BCO, now see, angle BCD is the whole thing, right? It's comprised of this entire thing that is total 58 degrees. But we need to find BCO, which basically means this part of the angle, right? So that means that we need to find this part of the angle, so we need to subtract this part of the angle. And how can we find this part? Well, any triangle that is made out of two radii is obviously going to be an isosceles triangle because the radii would be equal, right? So that means that these two angles are equal, and we already know DOC. we found out DOC as 144 degrees. If we know this angle, then we can find out these two angles because it's an isosceles triangle. So 180 minus 144 divided by 2. Why am I doing this? Because the total sum of a triangle's angles is 180. So when you subtract 144, we're left with the sum of these two angles, and we can divide it by 2 in order to find the sum, basically find the angles for one of those angles, find the value for one of those angles. So in order to do 180 minus 144, that's 6 and 36 upon 2, and that means that one of these angles is 18. Now we know that this part of the angle is 18 degrees, and we need to find this part of the angle, and we also know that the whole angle is equal to 58. So 58 minus 18 would simply give us that value, which would be 40. 40 degrees is the value of angle BCO. Okay, next question, they've asked us to draw a cumulative frequency curve. Let me just see the stream. Okay, fine. 17. The question number 17, they've shown us basically the frequencies for 60 children who love to play in a sports area, basically. Or play area, whatever that's written. Yeah, मेरा मुंह थक गया बोल के. 60 children, right? Now they're asking us to do cumulative frequency diagram. Well, I can't exactly draw it right now, but I can tell you what to do. First of all, we have to notice the fact that they've given us frequency rather than cumulative frequency. So first, adding to the table, we need to make a third row that would be cumulative frequency, and we need to calculate those. So 4 will remain 4 because there's nothing to add in it. Now 4 plus 7 would be 11. 11 plus 8 would be 19. 19 plus 24 would be 39 and 43. And then finally we would have 60. So that's a cumulative, and then we can basically just plot this with the time going on the x-axis and the cumulative frequency going on the y-axis, and then we can draw it with a smooth S-curve, right? Something like this. Now they're asking use a diagram to estimate the median, the interquartile range, and the number of students who spend more than 80 minutes in the play area. Okay, so in order to find the median, what you basically need to do is take 50% of the total frequency of basically whatever group we're measuring at this point. So 50% of would be of 60 because they mentioned that the total number of children is 60, right? So 50% of 60 would be 30, and we would need to see what the 30th value in our cumulative frequency graph is. So we'll go by here, 30th value, and we'll find the number of minutes that corresponds to. Now the second question they're asking is for the interquartile range. The interquartile range basically means Q3 minus Q1, where Q3 is the upper quartile and Q1 is the lower quartile. The upper quartile is 75% of your total frequency minus 25% of your lower frequency, which is your lower quartile. 75% would be 45, so the 45th value minus the 15th value. So be careful not to just subtract this and say 30th value. We need to find out the 45th value, what it corresponds to, and the 15th value, what it corresponds to, and then subtract them. Last question is the number of children who spend more than 80 minutes in the play area. In order to find this, what we need to do is basically we'll go to the diagram, whatever it is, we'll go to 80, and then we will see the frequency that it corresponds to, and then we will subtract that from 60 in order to find the total number of children who spend more than 80 minutes, right? The next question they've given us is that P is directly proportional to Q square. This is the sign for direct proportion, right? So, wait, I think my charger jal raha hai, mera charger, ek suno ko. Yeah, I'm fine now. I could smell something. Anyhow, P is directly proportional to Q square. We need to calculate the value of A and the value of B. So if P is directly proportional to Q square, then that would mean P is equal to KQ square, where K is a constant that we need to find out. They've given us one set of values being 12 and 2. So let's substitute those in. 12 is equal to 2 square K. So that becomes 4K, and K is equal to 3. Now let's substitute this back into our original equation. If K is 3, then that means P is equal to 3Q square. Now, they're asking us to find the value of A and the value of B. So first, let's substitute Q as 7 and P as A. So A is equal to 3, 7 square. That equal to A times 3, A is equal to 3 times 49. And that is 7 and 3 4 is 12, 14, 147. So A would be equal to 147. Now they're asking us to find the value of B. Let's substitute the same thing in 48, and B would be Q. So it becomes 48 upon 3 is equal to B square. That means B square is equal to 16, and B is equal to plus minus 4. Okay, fine. The next question, they've given us basic function that we need to insert our values into. 19a is equals to find f11. So they've given us f of x equals to 2x minus 5. Let's insert 11 into this. So 2 into 11 minus 5. It becomes 22 minus 5. Now 22 minus 5 is simply 17. So that's our answer for f with 11. And the next one, they're asking us to find the inverse of this function. So the inverse of any function can be found pretty easily. You just need to solve for x, right? So that's 2x minus 5 is equals to the original function. So that we can set it equal to y is equal to 2x minus 5. And now we can just solve for x. So y plus 5 is equal to 2x. And x is equal to y plus 5 upon 2. Now we can just replace the variables once again. It becomes f of inverse of x. And we can replace it with x if we want to. So x plus 5 upon 2. So that's the inverse of this function. The next question we've been given is that f of x is equal to x squared plus x minus 11. Now this might seem complicated, but it isn't actually. F of x just refers to that function, right? So f of x, they already gave us the value of which is 2x minus 5, and they've given us that it is equal to x squared plus x minus 11. So let's just solve for x, right? So let's group the like terms together. X squared plus x minus 2x minus 11 plus 5 is equal to 0. Now let's solve for x. X squared plus x minus 2x is minus x, plus minus is 6, and that's minus 6, and now we need to solve for x, so we'll middle term break now. Simpler way to middle term break, well, we could have 3 and 2. However, 3 and 2 minus 3 and plus 2 could work, yeah. So let's do it. X squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 6 is equal to 0. X minus 3 plus 2 x minus 3 is equal to 0. So it becomes x plus 2 x minus 3 is equal to 0. So x is equal to minus 2 or x is equal to 3. So that's that. Now they've given a matrix question, but since matrix is no longer in the syllabus, matrices are no longer in the syllabus, I will be skipping that question. The next question we have is one for mathematical similarity. So let's do that one. I sound like a child. Anyhow, 21, we have two prisms. One is prism A. Its volume is 5000 centimeter cube. Its length is 50 centimeter. And we also know that the cross section of prism B is 16 centimeter square. Calculate the length of prism B. Well, the first thing that we got to know is that there is a relationship between your volume, your lengths, and your area. But one more important thing that we have is that the volume of, basically in order to find the area of prism A, what we can do is that we can divide the volume by its length. Why? Because the volume of any prism is basically equal to its area multiplied by its length. We often rephrase this as base area times height, but we can also write it like this. So volume is equal to 5000 is equal to 50 multiplied by area. So area is equal to 100. 100 centimeter square is the area of prism A. So now we know the areas of both prisms and we need to find the length of prism B, right? So in order to do that, the simpler way is basically to use the correlation of areas and lengths. That means that L1 upon L2 whole square is equal to A1 upon A2. Where L1 and A1 are from the same prism and L2 and A2 are from the same prism, right? So L1 is, for example, 50. And we need to find the length of prism B. 50 upon x is equal to A1. Since we use 50 in the numerator for A, that means that prism A, that means that we need to use the area for prism A as well. So that becomes 100 upon A2. Actually, we're given the area for prism B, which is 16. So now let's just cross multiply and try and find out the answer. Or what we can do is we can take a square root on both sides. So it becomes 50 upon x is equals to 100 root is 10 upon 4. So now let's just cross multiply and find out the answer. This becomes 200 is equal to 10x. X is equal to 2 and 20. So the length of prism B is 20 centimeters. The next question we have is to make x the subject. Pretty elementary question. Let's just do it. A is equals to, let's just readjust the camera. A is equals to 5b plus 2x upon x minus 3. So with no hesitation, we're just going to multiply this. Ax minus 3a is equals to 5b plus 2x. Now let's put all the terms that involve x on one side. So ax minus 2x is equals to 5b plus 3a. Now what we can do is just extract x by factoring it out. So it becomes ax times a minus 2 is equals to 5b plus 3a. Now let's divide both sides by a minus 2 to get x is equals to 5b plus 3a upon a minus 2. Now we've found the formula in terms of basically with x as a subject. The next question is one of coordinate geometry, so let's do this one. Okay, so we have 23. AB is a line segment that joins A, which is minus 2, 5, and B is 1, 3. V is the midpoint of the segment of AC. So if B is the midpoint and we need to find the coordinates of C, which we'll just label as xy for now, let's find basically C. So if B is the midpoint, then that means that minus 2 plus x upon 2 would be equal to the x coordinate of the midpoint, which is 1. So it becomes minus 2 plus x is equals to 2 and x is equals to 4. Same thing we'll do for the y coordinate. 5 plus the certain value of C upon 2 is equals to 3. So this becomes 5 plus y is equals to 6 and y is thus equal to 1. So we found the coordinates of C, which is basically equal to 4 and 1. Next question we have is the length AB is root t. Find the value of t. So let's just find the value of the length of AB through the distance formula. So we get 3 minus 5 whole square plus 1 minus minus 2, that becomes plus 2 whole square, and we put it under root. So minus 2 whole square is equals to 4, 3 square becomes 9, and 4 plus 9 is 13. So this becomes root 13. And they said that the length AB is root t. So by comparison, we can basically see that 13 is equals to t, so t is equals to 13. Now they're saying find